2023 is right around the corner, which is insane. And with a new year comes a new car market. And so in this video, I'm going to be breaking down some of the predictions that I have for 2025 when it comes to the car market. Let's get started. But before we dive in, I do want to remind you guys that my course, the Car Sharing Masterclass, is on sale until December 31st at 11:59 p.m. So if you want to get $225 off the Car Sharing Masterclass, you gotta act soon because the sale will be over before we know it. The Car Sharing Masterclass is an in-depth guide teaching you everything you need to know about starting and scaling a car sharing fleet with the same business model that I use. Not only does it come with hours and hours of course content, but it also comes with a private Discord and monthly Zoom calls as well. And we are so confident in the quality of product that the Car Sharing Masterclass is that we offer a robust 30-day money-back guarantee at no risk to you. Again, that's Christmas 225, and you can check that out by clicking on the link down in the description below. Now back to the video. Let's briefly dive into the 2024 car market and some of the different strides and progresses that we've seen over the last roughly 12 months. This year, the Used Vehicle Value Index saw an average much lower than what we saw in 2023, and while in 2024, the Used Vehicle Value Index did see some ups and downs, the average was 202.1, which was down by quite a bit compared to 2023, where the average was 218.7. But this is still much higher than what we saw pre-pandemic, where the average index was 164.3 in 2020, 151.5 in 2019, and 148 in 2018. New vehicle prices, on the other hand, are just slightly down through the year, with the average new vehicle transaction price sitting at $48,759 in January of 2024 and currently sitting at $48,724 per most recent data. Some of the biggest improvements come from incentives. In January, the average incentive was 5.5% of ATP, or average transaction price, and today it's at 8%, so a 2.5% improvement, which is big. So by all metrics, the car market has no doubt improved. But it is important to note and to really emphasize the fact that despite these improvements, the car market is still far from normal, at least a normal as defined as pre-pandemic levels. Car prices are still much higher than they were pre-pandemic, as are interest rates, and even incentives are a few points lower than what they were at in 2019 and before. And so while things have improved, no doubt, there is absolutely room for more improvements to come. And so this brings us to 2025. The 2025 car market, I believe, could bring a few different scenarios. But before we dive into those specific scenarios, let's first briefly talk about interest rates. Interest rates, while on the mend, are still extremely high. And interest rates are a huge factor as to why car payments are so high and why cars are just generally unaffordable. But according to sources like the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, Forbes, it is expected that interest rates will be lower in 2025, which is ultimately the result of inflation cooling and settling down. And while rates are currently sitting at the 4.25 to 4.75 percentage mark, it is expected that rates could go as low as 3.5% in 2025, largely dependent on the job market, which is a bit of a gray area as of right now. Now, it is theorized that rates could go down to 3.5%, but that doesn't mean that rates for mortgages and car loans will go down to that level. But it does mean that we should see these rates for these types of loans go down, and it will absolutely be much needed relief for anybody who's wanting to make a big purchase like a home or a car, and it will no doubt make cars more affordable from a monthly payment perspective. Now, when it comes to actual vehicle prices, this is a bit of a toss-up, and I could see there being really two scenarios that could be played out, and both of these are largely dependent on one thing: tariffs. If Trump does not carry out his campaign promise of implementing large tariffs on imported goods, I predict that the car market will continue to go down. Now, I don't think that we'll see the large swings that we saw throughout 2023 and in the beginning of 2024, but I do think that the car market will slowly but surely continue to decrease throughout the year. The car market is no doubt normalizing, and we are seeing this reflected with large amounts of inventory from automakers as well as incentives from dealerships increasing. And as I just mentioned, I predict that if the tariff plan does not go according to its current plans, that this will continue. And this will no doubt be a good thing for car buyers. But then that brings us to scenario number 2, which is a scenario where the Trump tariffs play out as promised. Trump ran and largely was elected on the promise of implementing large tariffs on imported goods. A promise built on the idea that implementing tariffs will bring manufacturing back into the United States, it'll create jobs, amongst other things. And while I'm not going to go into the flaws of this argument, though I did talk about this in a video about a month ago, I I will say that this tariff plan is, well, contentious. The Trump tariff plan has been met with pushback by virtually everyone with the exception of Trump loyalists. And I'm not an economist, nor do I try to pretend to be one, and so I won't really dive into the details of what these tariffs mean and the economic impacts of them. But according to experts, not only would these tariffs cause individual products to go up in price, but it will no doubt cause car prices to go up in price as well. Because as I've spoken about in previous videos, there is no such thing as a 100% American-made car. And whether the entire car as a whole is tariffed or parts that are used to make the car are, there is really no way around it. Car prices will go up because cars will become more expensive to produce, and thus they will become more expensive to buy. The unfortunate reality is that new car prices are already very high, and there really isn't any signs of them going down significantly anytime soon. And the large tariff placed on these cars or the components of them will no doubt cause car prices to go up even more, which, as we've known based off of what we saw in 2021 and 2022, as new car prices go up in price, that has a trickle-down effect onto the used car market as well. Now, individual car prices aside, there are also some offshoot consequences that could occur due to these tariffs as well. For example, many experts believe that these tariffs will have a negative impact on GDP. If the economy gets worse as a result of people buying less things because prices have gone up, then companies will make less. This could lead to lack of demand within the car market, which could result in lowering car prices due to higher incentives to drive sales. But will the potential higher incentives that come along with higher car prices and lower demand, will that counteract the higher car prices in themselves? I don't know. There is also the entire question of EVs and what the future of EVs look like with some deregulation and with EV tax credits potentially going away. Something that has been discussed, but nobody really knows exactly what's going to happen here. But I expect that this will no doubt have an impact on the car market as well. The point is, I believe that we have two potential scenarios that could likely play out with the used and new car market. One will lead to more affordable cars and a continued stabilization of the new and used car market, and the other one will lead to more expensive cars and likely a lesser selection of them. And while we don't know exactly what's going to happen and how this is going to play out, I do think that we will have a decent idea of this within the first quarter or so of 2025. But truthfully, either way, I'm not really rushing to buy a new car as we sit here in December of 2024. And I don't necessarily think that you should either. I think that if you are someone who you know you want to buy a car, you know what car you want, you can afford it, and you're ready to make that purchase, I would absolutely prioritize making that purchase sooner than later. In part because of these tariffs and these other things that I've discussed in this video, but also because of the fact that we are in end of month, end of year, end of quarter, and if you are going to get a good deal on a car, right now is the time to get that. But if you are someone who knows that you're probably going to buy a car in the next 1 to 3 years and you're wondering if you should expedite that purchase, in my opinion, the answer is no. And I would instead recommend seeing how the first few months of 2025 play out and then make a decision from there. Either way, though, whether tariffs are implemented or not, I don't think that there will be an instantaneous impact once these tariffs are implemented. I think it will take time for the tariffs to take their full effect because as we sit here today, there are thousands of vehicles for sale, both new and used models. And whether tariffs get implemented come January or not, it's not going to change the fact that those cars are already here, they haven't been tariffed, and they are the price that they are. But ultimately, only time will tell. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.